morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in the world you may be. A very warm welcome to the Asian Golf Industry Federation's new series of webinars highlighting the work of AGIF member companies across the region. Today, we're turning the focus on Bin Tien Golf and Beach Resort, one of the most exciting and eagerly anticipated new developments in Vietnam. We're delighted to be joined by two of the driving forces behind the project and two men who have been influential figures in the golf industry in Asia for several decades. From his home base in Santa Rosa in California, we have David Dale, principal at Golf Plan, while Martin Moore, president at Flagstick GCCM, joins us from Vietnam. Great to have you both with us. To kick off with David, can you give us an overview of the golf course, the location, topography, and the design concept?
Certainly. Well, the golf project itself, we got involved on this project back in April of 2019. And it's with a company called Trungnam Group. They've got offices in Hanoi, also in Ho Chi Minh, but we met at their head office in Hanoi. We were promptly taken to the site to see what was quite a surprise, where the property, 80 hectares of land, sits against the western edge of a large dune along the coastal area. Project involves approximately 900 villas, 3 luxury hotel sites, a community living center, wellness, and then luxury villa development component. The project actually had been permitted previously through from a prior land plan. And as we were getting involved with the project, there seemed to be some moving pieces to it, where there were some sections of land that we could move, sections of land that we could absolutely not touch, that related to house location, maintenance facilities, beach access roads. And so when we got really into the project itself, we were looking for, first and foremost thing, where's the water coming from? So the investigation of the site, a lot of boreholes were drilled, a lot of saline water was coming out of the ground, and we were looking at alternatives, turf grass species, and what we're going to use for the project. And because we needed to have an idea how much water we might have available, it is also involving our master planning process on what the footprint of turf would be, because we needed to balance the amount of turf area, the amount of water available on the project. After many months, we finally found a source of factory water nearby that could be brought to the site. And Martin's been involved with aspects of that installation of pipeline coming into the reservoir for the irrigation that's located on the third, fourth, and fifth hole of the project. The golf course itself, with the coastal dune, there's the low-lying land always behind any kind of dune formation. Typically, that land could be farmland or wetlands of some sort, marshy land. In this situation, it was agriculture, heavy soils. Some ponds that were existing, some ponds that had been excavated when a previous developer had started to actually do a golf course there. So when we looked at the soil types, we're going very heavy, quite a bit of rock, a large dune formation up against the coastline that we knew they were going to lower to be able to put beach development on it. So we're thinking, how can we use sand? How can we preserve that sand for the site, and then utilize that as part of a landscape element for the golf course? So as we worked through the design process, and we were looking at footprint of turf, we started to narrow down on the actual footprint area of grass at about 30 hectares of turf area, which gave us about 15 hectares of water body. And then we were left with approximately 35 hectares of open land and how to address it. So we felt that maybe the most appropriate thing to do on this property really create that sort of beach environment, oasis in a landscape was to take that dune stand, bring it out onto the Gulf itself, and create a series of rolling dune mound formations in between and through golf holes, and then start to plant that landscape with coconut palms, some plumeria, some flame of the forest, and then a lot of native plant types as well. And so there's about 2,500 coconut palm trees that have been brought in and planted. There's over 100,000 different types of small native shrubs, grasses, sedges that have been brought in on the project. And then we have about, well, I'd have to say it in miles, there's about 35 miles of perforated drain lines sitting underneath all those fairways to be able to capture our irrigation water into a closed system and put it back to the lakes. So the components, really technical, also aesthetic, how we were addressing the golf course development itself. There were a lot of moving parts, image boards we were putting in front of the owners to get their response, what their feelings were. Well, we don't want a links course. So we said, well, we're not truly creating a links course. We're creating a rolling dunes landscape. We are creating something that's really from our minds, our experiences, and something that we felt that could be sustainable in the long run. So it came to how would we construct a bunker, and the bunkers are not technically formally built. They are deposits of sand with anywhere from 50 to 1 meter, 50 centimeters to a meter of depth of sand in the fairway bunker areas and along the green sites. We don't ever have to bring in bunker sand on this golf course. It's sustainable. The turf variety being Pascal addresses the challenges we're having on water quality. So addressing that water quality, the Pascal Platinum TE from Atlas Turf was what was selected. And so I could continue to go and go and go on all the details that was part of the master plan, because this is all being thought about in the master plan level.
That's fantastic, David. Thank you. We'll be back to you very shortly to talk a little bit more specifically about the golf course and how that plays and what golfers can expect. I'd like to come to Martin. Martin, can you give us some background about the specific role that Flagstick has played in this project?
Yeah, a similar role that we do on our other projects. We more of project management, golf course construction management, and providing some key technical personnel. We had a total in the meat of the construction. We had about total of 10 to 12 people on site, a so-called management team, and then we had like 4 shapers there. We had a couple features guys that were involved in building the bunkers that David mentioned, the greens, the tees, and some of the technical feature stuff. So about 10 to 12 people during the heat of the construction.
What were the specific challenges maybe that you faced there, Martin, initially, and was it pretty much as you expected things to be?
Well, the actual project, I mean, challenges, obviously COVID was the biggest challenge. and you know, in the communication with, you know, David, David made the site visit, as he mentioned, end of November, December of 2020. That was about 5 or 6 months after we started construction. So, you know, we had a lot roughed in, but it was one of those visits. Obviously the design documents and plans that David and Golf Plan put out were very, very detailed, which helped a lot. But that visit was, if there's only going to be one visit, that was the perfect timing, because we had enough stuff roughed in where David could see it, comment on I like this, I don't like this, and give us the rules of thumb to where we could carry that out through the rest of the project. So that was, you know, so the challenge is obviously just the COVID and the travel restrictions. Even myself, David made that visit before I did. I wasn't able to come until the end of January 2021. But the project initially, we started mobilizing in April of 2020 sort of really got under construction in May of 2020. We grassed the last hole up in June of 2021, so it was about 13 months later, which was a little bit extended, but 25% into the project, or 30%, I should say. As David mentioned, there was a previous client who had this property before Trungnam Group did, and they came up with the idea of relocating the clubhouse. So that put a good 2 or 3 month stall in there, including David had to redesign probably 50% or more of the golf course, reroute the golf course. Areas we had dirt moved. So, we were still able to work on a lot of holes. So that was a challenge that, we were fully mobilized, fully going. I think it was a very good decision at the end of the day. I think it all worked out good, and the golf course turned out great that way. But that put a little bit of a delay in us and a curveball. But it went, considering 13 months for the situations and the obstacles that we proceeded and the clubhouse thing, I think it proceeded pretty well. We were constantly always getting pushed by the client, as always, finish it, and we're on the other side. We want to finish it fast too, but we're maintaining quality and keep the quality control up, and keep David in the loop, via long distance, and it's pretty amazing, to be honest with you. I think it's a extremely good product. I think the quality of the construction, it's a great finished golf course, and with all the obstacles that we face, I think it's a true success.
We're going to come back a little bit later, Martin, David, to some of your specific stories and adventures about the COVID period and how you coped with all of that. So as we head into November now, what is the actual current status in terms of course opening and playability? What are the plans of the developers for that?
From what I've heard, they're planning on opening the golf course on some date in November, so next month. I saw some photos just recently. The grass is bidding, but it's not bidded, so it still needs a little bit more time. I think it's a little bit rushed, but I think there's the ability for them to be able to put a small group, a soft opening to this golf course, where the players would find it enjoyable, and I don't think there would be any negative feedback. Whip Gang, Jason Blaka is out there assisting with the maintenance at the time with their machinery and the client's machinery that they've acquired. I don't know how large the staff is yet. It's growing, but it's taking a little bit of time to get the golf course dialed in, as you would expect. There's a lot of hand trimming type of work to do on bunker faces. We don't want to scalp those. It's still a lot of landscape planting to do. We've got road construction on the south end of the site that's not quite done yet, tie into a couple of golf holes. I mean, it doesn't impact play, but we're not tied down into the cart path areas yet. So, I'd rather that work is done prior to opening. But I can understand how a client, the owner, can be very eager to start having their product be seen and start to get that word of mouth marketing happening on the golf course.
Actually, a lot of work left on the clubhouse as well, so.
Yeah, on the clubhouse and the practice range structure, and the maintenance is actually delayed. It's taking some time to get that structure completed so they can actually have workspace and proper maintenance on servicing of equipment and storage of parts and all of that as well. It's the typical growing pains of a project, this being their very first project that they're doing, and more to follow. We've actually got 3 more projects with them in other parts of the country, which is pretty exciting. That's about all I can say about those at the moment.
We'll see how that develops. Yeah, can we talk specifically about the golf course, David and Martin, and maybe if you can whet the appetite of golfers who are going to be able to go there and experience it, what they can expect in terms of the configuration and the views and the weather conditions. How do you look at that, David?
Well, the architectural character of itself, if I was to start to create an image for someone to expect and experience it, they think of Seminole, Donald Ross's Florida masterpiece that he did, a site that was on the backside of the dune, flattish lands, lake bodies that were quasi there, expanded to become features on golf holes, large sandy open land, plateau type green. This golf course itself has plateau style greens. When the contour comes from the basin of a bunker up that bunker face and into the green, it rolls into the surface. It's not coming up and over and dropping down into the green surface. I want all the greens to have more of a gentle crown to them. Lots of collection areas, chipping areas around the greens themselves. Everywhere on the turf, from tee to the green, as you transition from a fairway cut to the dunes area, it's only got a real width of turf that is rough. So the rough area is very, very minimal. Just enough to maybe slow the ball, hang up the ball, but then the ball releases into the sand. But it's a tight lie. We want the ball to roll. We don't want the ball really slowed down by a rough. We want the ball to release. The sand itself is fine textured. It flows a little bit. It's starting to compact, and the pitted bunkers that we have are protected. The dunes themselves, there's some wind blow from the dunes that you get, but that's natural, and it'll start to fill in as the plant material starts to mature. But you're going through kind of three different environments. For the first several holes, 1, 2, 3 through 6, the opening hole, you got a mountain backdrop. You get to the second hole, you've got a sea backdrop. You get to the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, you're in a water environment. You come into hole 7, 8, 9, you're back more inland inside the dunes, and coming back to the clubhouse area around a very lavish practice facility. One of those practice facilities I wish we had in our own backyard, because I'd spend hours there working on my short game. Never seemed to be able to do that in my own backyard. Always somewhere else. But when you get into holes 10 through 18, it gets pretty exciting, because again, 10, 11, you have a little bit of that water. It's the salt marsh, then beach resort development. You get on to hole 12. Now you've got dunes on both sides. And on 13, all of a sudden, you're looking north down the coastline to a peninsula where there'll be a luxury villa development location called the Promontory. And it is dramatic. And then after you finish that little par 3, well, on that par 3, there were a lot of casuarina that were on the top of the dune. When I was there November, December, I went up with my drone and I was giving them videos and still shots. Here's your view. This is what you can appreciate. That was part of the ammo for Martin to use and others to talk to politics and hopefully bribe somebody with a cold beer, noodles, some other kind of meal, something to get rid of those trees. And
that was over a pool game and a bunch of beer that night, David. And then
okay,
I was on site then. I went out Sunday myself with the D6 because he gave me the heads up, and I cleared them all on a Sunday morning. Then he came out all hung over about 10 o'clock. What are you doing? I said, you don't remember last night? You said I could take out all those trees.
Well, when you gave me the message about it, when you told me that,
I couldn't wait to send you that photo once they were all down. Remember?
When I got the photo and we spoke, I was praising the Lord. I was like, "Thank you, God."
Well, and it's not only just to throw in. It's not only hole 13 that it's one of the most amazing holes in Vietnam. I mean, the coastline, the views are, but that also opened up the view from from 12, like David said, from
Yeah.
14 tee, from 15, because you're working up the slope there, and every one of those holes now just has an unbelievable ocean view.
Yeah, because when you come off of the ocean on 13, you get onto 14, 15, you're up on the higher ground, you're up against the native landscape, you're looking out over the top of coconut palms, you're seeing water along 10 and 11, you're seeing the distant views of 16, 17, 6, 7, and the ocean, promontory where the luxury villas will be. But it's dramatic. And
Yes.
then you're in the rock outcrops, because all of a sudden you're up in the higher ground and all these floaters are sitting there. Well, some of those aren't floating, some are, but some of those big monolithic outcrops are just gorgeous. Fairways go around them and you're getting over them or on the sides of them. Pretty exciting. Really exciting. So I wish I could get there, see it in person again rather than just the dirt, but photos help. So I'm excited about it. But when you get to 16, 17, 18, that's a wake-up call for anybody playing this golf course, because it's a tough par 3, the 16th. 17th, an uphill 4 that's going to tell you to hit a good drive, plenty of width. But that second shot is critical to be able to get that hole. And then you've got this lovely par 5 finishing hole downhill. And it's really kind of pick on what you want. You've got bunker down the left, you can try to cover. You've got a big long run out down the right. And if you get into that run out down the right, it opens up the green to go at it with a rescue or a 3-wood to get to the green, get home in 2. But anyway, it's exciting. Very, very exciting golf course. And I just look forward to getting there. I can't press upon that more.
That sounds phenomenal, very exciting, particularly that closing stretch. When you're designing this, David, are you keeping in mind the high handicappers or developers hoping for a tournament here with pros, or what's the thought process on that?
Definitely are. We're keeping the fairways pretty wide. And as I said, it's fairway cut, so I'm hoping we're 7, 8 millimeter on the tight cut. 7 would be ideal, but I hope. And then maybe it's 25 millimeter on the rough cut, just enough to kind of slow the ball down. But for the average golfer, there's so much width, and they'll learn to use the land to be able to let the ball release. And with that scale of having the fairway so wide in that fashion, we're 60 meters wide, 65, 70. We narrow down to even 30, 35, getting off of the tee, and you got to cover dunes, sand, native landscape areas as well. But I think they'll find it very user-friendly and fun. And I think part of that is that on every one of the green sites, there's a place to miss the ball. And if you miss your tee shot, there's a place to hit your second shot to get in position to get your third. And you're able to use that rescue or a sandwich or a putter to get up and down around the green. I mean, Kevin has watched me many a time from 50, 60 meters away from the green edge, you pull out putter and hit it. So it's fun to keep the ball on the ground. It's my favorite style of golf, and to be able to finally do this in Vietnam on this particular site where it can be appreciated by many is exciting.
Yeah, there's quite a variety of, David did a good job. Quite a variety of tees out there too. So, it's for the professional golfer playing way back there to, some forward tees, and I think as David said, the fairways are wide, the ball's going to run, but even if you run off the turf, it's not lost ball. You're in a sand dune. The native grasses are sort of sporadic. There's a lot of open sand. Yeah. Actually, probably David kept pushing for more and more and more open sand, but there's a fine line with the wind blowing. But I think we we've left a lot of open sand. Some of it will get overgrown, but when you roll off that fast turf, you go find your ball. It's just on the edge of the sand, and you play it. So it's difficult, but it's not lost ball tough. So
Yeah, that's very true. And as Martin mentions with regard to length, I mean, from the forward tees, you're 5,000 yards. From the back tees, you're only 7,100. So, I mean, if a golf professional is going to play out there, you come into par 70, but still, I think the golf professional of today, pair it up. It's not intended to be a tournament course for the golf professional, but for the members, for the guests, and for the single-digit players to go stand on that back tee, it's a good test.
yes,
And the wind comes up. And when the wind comes up, they got to learn how to hit the shots to be able to play that wind. The wind's not extreme unless you get into the weather front, the seasonal rains that'll come in. And then it starts to get a little nasty. But it's pretty darn user-friendly. Even for the white tees, I mean, you're 6,500 yards. It's really not bad. And if you go to the silver tees, you're about 62. Blue tees are about 67.50. So it's really comfortable as scorecard length. And the tees are big enough, as Mark said, for the golf operations people to move the tees forward when it's into the wind, or move the tees back when it's downwind. There's a lot of tee area out there. And it's all cut the same height as fairway. We didn't want to see a lot of extra mowing out there. Just get us a lot of fairway mowers and away we go. And when we let the ball roll like we want, the golf course actually plays shorter. So now we're getting more of those middle and lower numbered irons in there. It's like wedge through 6-iron in your hands, and it's a fun, enjoyable golf experience.
Martin, just coming to you, can for our viewers, people who are watching this from around the world in various places, can you give us a sense of the location and how do we get here? How do we go there? Are the places to stay? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's it's a little bit isolated in a sense. It's near Nha Trang, which is a famous beach resort. You fly into Cameron, obviously, and then it's about a 45 to 50-minute. But what made it good is it's an unbelievably beautiful, isolated beach. I mean, you could, the guys on the bulldozers would pull up at lunchtime and park their bulldozer and walk out and throw a hammock at a tree and have their lunch underneath a tree on the beach. I mean, crystal clear, most uninhabited water. It's just spectacular setting, is it really, really isolated. So it's a beautiful destination. I think when they do their hotels there and they have the clubhouse done, again, it's 45 minutes from Cameron Airport. It won't be too bad once they have the facilities out there.
When we first went there in April of 19, we stayed in Nha Trang at the Intercontinental, and being a Spire Elite member, that was pretty nice. Great big suite, that big shower head, and luxury. Luxury. Then I saw the local hotel you were talking about, going, I'm never staying there.
Yeah.
And when I got back, November, December of 2020, the Radisson Blue was finished. It was opened, and it was very comfortable.
Yes.
Now, I may have been the third or fourth hotel guest there at the time. And I went there for breakfast. I was the only one in there for breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning. They opened it early for me. But I didn't suffer much with regard to my accommodation. I even brought some of my breakfast for myself for my lunch, not knowing what my first day of lunch might be. But I found the first night of dinner was to go to a local place for lamb. And in the bowl also had this really nice, nutty, local seasoning, kind of a red tint to it, and a little bit of gray sort of looking stuff in there. And they said, try it. So I tried it, and I ate it, and then it tasted good, but then I said, "Is this brain?" And they said, "Yeah, it's ram brain." I said, "Okay, well, let's go." You know, I'm always fine to eat the local, but that's why I like the Radisson Blue too.
We'll keep that in mind next time with brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about COVID, because it's obviously affected golf course construction and development around the world for many companies, many designers, many golf course construction people. Projects have stopped, they've been halted. You guys seem to have done an amazing job between you to ensure this kept going. I know, David, that Martin and his team are constantly sending you WhatsApp pictures, drone images. Can you tell us about that process and how challenging it was for you?
Well, anytime you have a construction supervisor on a job and it's full-blown construction, guys trying to put out fires every 5 minutes, trying to keep local contractors doing what they need to do, and protecting areas, and scheduling, and doing WhatsApp calls when he's on Wi-Fi, and there's all these moving parts, and I'm saying I need photos, and then guys like, who's there? Oh, I forgot to take the picture of this or that. But it's like, hey, I'll get back to you at the end of the day. I'll get the photographs for you. So, it wasn't a day that I had pictures, and I wanted daily. But I realized that's a huge task. But I would get photos sometimes we just, I kind of where we were. And really consistently, I featured a view, the landing zone, and the strategic element of the whole mountain shape. And boy, I talked about basic mounds, and like mounds, not dunes, over and over again. I'd be flat and strong lines. I've had a little markup of where they were on the bumper, and I started drawing where I wanted the base, how I wanted the lip, and I wanted the vertical angle, and go ahead area 50, somewhere in that area, and bang it out. Hey, Mark, get your guy on Kyle's horse, get him out of there, get him over to ours, so we can get this thing nailed. So it was a fun process, not a process that I like to go through, because the golf plan were very, very hands-on. The drawings, we spent a lot of time on them. I mean, we're 10 centimeter, 12 centimeter, as far as adjustment type of elevation on a green, and but we're very precise on what we want the levels, those percentages. I can't explain in a picture. I can use words, pictures, but sometimes it's not understand. We all speak a little different language depending on what architects work with, one shaper or what construction supervisor. But when you're on site, I can say, I want it to roll in this fashion. Or I get a shovel in my hand and literally reshape an edge with a flat shovel to be able to convey what I want on these critical little tie-ins. That's how we were able to set the tone, set the bar on what we were trying to do during my visit last year, December. But drone videos were really helpful. The challenge with drone videos is flying low enough to understand when you're walking the hole. And at times the drone was higher, and I'd mark out some stuff using a still shot out of a drone video using Photoshop, and then I'd mark it up in my iPad, and then I'd send it off, and Martin would say, that's really not the view. The drone was too high. No, that's not going to work. Oh, great. Okay. Ring, and talk it through. So, I mean, we used every means we could. Still photography, drone videos, a lot of WhatsApp talking, just to be able to try to make sure we're all on the same page, what we were trying to get achieved out there. And, I'm very happy. I'd say we're, 85% there. And if I could have been there 3-4 times, I'd say we're 95%. But no one will know except for Martin and myself, and now anybody that listens to this, you know. But it's pretty damn good, and it's pretty close because the documents are tight and they're hitting design grades. And if they didn't hit the design grade, we redrew. It was site survey. Here's the rock. Here's the new elevation. Here's where we're trying to tie it back in. Here's a grade bust, and we're redrawing those elevations based upon the site grades, and then sending it back. Have it back out 2, 3, 4 hours later. Because when we woke up and it had come in, we've got it out before it was lunch here. So by the time they got in the next morning, away they were going on it. It was like a 24/7, 365 sort of thing going on here. Actually 395, 396 days. I don't know, something like that. So the process went well. I think we muddled through it better than most have. But we were also doing the same thing on 2 projects in Korea. And I had the opportunity October, November last year to go to those as well. Not as easy to communicate because we don't have an expertise in construction management and team in Korea like we do with flight stick in Vietnam. There's always a language barrier that's pretty strong there. And it needs a hell of a lot more handling than what we have to do when we're working with quality teams like flight stick.
And for you, Martin, similar experience working in that fashion?
Yeah, I think David touched on that good. I think, we started off what was good with again, golf plans, design drawings are very, very detailed and very good. So if you build everything exactly like those plans, which we did at the first, it's going to be a good golf course. But as David said, there's always those, when he makes site visits and when I make site visits, those little things that just you see on site, view lines in the bunkers, the rolled over edges, the irregularity. We created a quite unique bunker style here, which took numerous photos and numerous sketches from David. And I don't think we really got that until we went through holes and again, David's timing of his visit couldn't have been more perfect to get all the do's and don'ts in. And then when I came along, I still seen a lot of things that were wrong. So David and I directly communicated. We had no problem taking up some grass and fixing some rolled over edges and, taking them to another extreme. A matter of fact, when we were all done with the project, this is just in the month of July, I kept, one of my Thai bunker guys that has worked for Flagstick for about 30 years. One of the guys that David wanted over, he came over with me in February and did the quarantine at the same time. I brought him over there and I got him in there. I kept him 1 month after we grassed the last hole to go back through every single bunker just to fine tune it. Because David, the whole time we were building this project, photos were bunkers. There was just a lot of comments on them. And, people look at bunkers. It's an aesthetic thing on a golf course. I mean, strategically place them right. Yes, that's critical. That's no problem. David did that on the plan. That's easy to put them in the right place. But the aesthetic beauty of bunkers is so critical. And the style that David wanted here, the rolled over edges and things like that, were something actually a little bit new to a couple of my bunker guys. So it took, again, I spent numerous hours with shovels in the bunkers with the guys too, and photos back to David. David will mark them up, and I think I'll agree with David. I think we got an 85% there. If David would have made another visit with a shovel in his hand, we probably would have reached that 95%. But it went well. But with a good set of drawings and the drone videos and the numerous photographies and the David was always back to us within 24 hours, and because of the time frame, we'd wake up to his photos and his sketches and stuff in the morning right when we were doing it, and as he was talking about the green details, the green detail drawings were great. And when he made the visit in December, we purposely made sure we had a few shaped in, and then David was able to tell our guys, hey, I don't want to come out of the bunker and go hard away. Let that thing come right, feed right into the bunker. Let the edges roll off and really give us, these are talented guys, but they really give us the do's and the don'ts and what I like and what I don't like. That actually, when you look at his plans, they were all exactly like the plans, what he was saying, but just, different people have different styles. So that was a, tremendous visit to do it. And we struggle with, contractors too. I mean, some of the contractors that we had doing some of the stuff were hit by COVID as well. Getting materials delivered, were delayed. I mean, even to date, there's quite a few landscape materials, palm trees, coconut palms still, and native grass materials that still aren't delivered to the site. That still have to be. Before we left, we staked every single one of them out, GPS surveyed them all, but we got held up by materials quite a bit as well with the COVID times and all that. So again, I think, as David said, I think we did well. And I had a few other projects going on in Vietnam as well. And I was jumping around, but I think from when I got here 1st of February till the end of July and even the 1st of August, I probably made 7 or 8 visits in there for 2 or 3 days, and always would be talking to David when we were there, and just as support, extra support for the guys. It's the more eyes you have on it, the better it is, and open communication. You're going to get it as good as we can. So
Yep.
It all worked
That's
out okay.
great. You both referenced David's trip there in December. David, just tell us the process you had to go through to get the approval to travel to Vietnam. It sounds interesting.
Well, I was trying to tie it into 2 countries first, because my option truly was to come through South Korea, because Singapore was more problematic, but to come through South Korea. So going to South Korea was the easy part. The quarantine there wasn't pleasant. Government picked hotel, Ramada Hotel, 3 meals a day was great, every one of them cold. Protesters outside the window because you're there. And then you get out and you're free to move around the country, and that was all great. But it was about a 6-week process for paperwork. It go from the travel agent to the representative with Trungnam, back and forth, and then to the government agency to try to coordinate all the different documents that are needed, get the right dates in place, and time it with the chartered flight. And so the chartered flight turns out to be the hardest thing to get coordinated, besides the $4,000 that you have to pay to even be able to come in under the quarantine, along with the other testing procedures you have to do, just like anybody going to travel these days. You need to have the negative test. But the charter flight was tough. And when I got on that charter flight, I was on that flight a week delayed. But I stayed very busy in Korea. It was great. It was actually well timed. Things worked out well. But I was cut on time in Vietnam because I needed to kind of get back at a certain time. Although I considered staying through the end of December and maybe come back middle of January. But the process once I arrived in Vietnam went very smoothly. I got to my hotel, an old Crown Hotel that's now a Grand Hyatt. I think I've stayed in the same room on the 18th floor. I thought 18th floor is appropriate, 18 holes of golf. I practiced flying my drone in the hotel room and doing panoramas. And I went in with a bottle of nice Macallan, a nice 18-year Macallan, and a couple 72% dark Lindt chocolates. And, they gave me a plate of fruit I didn't want. I wanted the Lindt chocolate in my lunch. And I had good movies and English speaking. I could order chocolate ice cream if I wanted. Every meal was hot. And the testing was very easy. I went to a room and they tested me and went back to my room. In Korea, they came to your door and they put the swab in your nose, and you thought it went all the way through you. Very painful. In Vietnam, they were more gentle. So, I went through 28 days of quarantine to be in Vietnam, to the reality of it all. And it was, it was okay. I was at my end with regard to the amount of quarantines. I was happy to get out. But traveling around the country was pretty easy. I was told, oh, you need to have this pass and you need to be able to show it when you get to the airport. And so I did all that paperwork, and they never asked for it. And I went off to Cam Bay and down to the site and did the business that needed to be done. And the time in Vietnam was pleasurable. Really, it was not a difficult thing. Just the hardships of quarantine, really more than anything else. And the expense. I mean, it was expensive. It doesn't count what my airfare was coming from the States to go to Korea, and then from Korea to get back to the States. But the charter flight and the quarantine was $4,000. It was like, ouch. But doing business, I'm there really support my client and make sure we're getting a good product. We're only as good as the last project we do. It's always been that way. I was told that a long time ago when I joined Golf Plan, and it rings true on every project. And from what I'm hearing and what my business partner Kevin Ramsey sent me this evening, he says Vietnam has just announced that they plan to open Vietnam fully by June of 2020. Hot off the press. Now, I hope that's the case. That would be great, but I'm eager to get there before then. But I just don't know if that's going to happen or not. I keep trying.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers are crossed. Yes.
Guys, both of you are among the senior statesmen of the golf industry in Asia, having worked out here for several decades, shall we say. It's quite remarkable, I think, when we look now at Vietnam and what's happened there, that I guess none of us could have imagined when you guys made your first trips to Asia. Martin, maybe starting with you. I know you've spent a huge amount of time in Vietnam. You've opened an office there. How have you seen the development in Vietnam? What do you see for the immediate future there in terms of golf?
Yeah, Spencer, I'm still very optimistic about it. I think the COVID thing has put a little hiccup in it, but I came back over here. I was out of Vietnam for 10 months through the COVID thing, and when I came and did all my quarantine at the end of January, I plan on doing about 3 months here and heading back to Thailand. But I had 5 projects under construction, and had been talking to numerous prospects and clients, and so I got here, and the 3 months, it's 9 months now, and I'm still here. I haven't had a chance to leave. It's been extremely busy finishing up the projects that I've had going, and still a couple are going. I was fortunate enough to have a big team here already. That's been the key to let me keep going because of the travel restrictions. But since then we've finished 4 of those 5 projects. I still have a couple under construction right now. I have 3 or 4 more that are already in the plant, that are designed and signed contracts. That are, a couple of them are starting slow, but I think the COVID thing has slowed those. But it's doesn't seem to slow down. I mean, it's a little hiccup with the COVID, but it's very optimistic. And I think this thing's gonna, let's hope and pray this pandemic's gonna ease away, and very optimistic of Vietnam's future. I mean, there's still a lot of things in the planning board. I'm trying to get up to Hanoi next week because I got 2 or 3 other new prospects we've been talking to that want to go. So it's very optimistic. As David said, it is hot off the press that they're open up fully in June. It's also hot off the press that they're talking about opening up December for vaccinated people that eliminating the quarantine as early as December, as long as, depending on where they're coming from. If it's super, super hot country, they might have restrictions, but fully vaccinated in December, they're talking about waiving the quarantine. But it's again, the 9 months I've been here, it's hit through a couple different waves, and the laws change every day. It as of like last week, and even as of today, you can't even travel domestically on an airplane. You can't even get on there's not even a domestic flight, to even to move around. They're going to waive that on October 12th. So that's why I'm trying to book to Hanoi. But then that's like a act that, you have to be vaccinated. You have to do the COVID test. And when I hit Hanoi, I still got to do 7 days of self quarantine. So that's just traveling. A good friend of mine just finished his job, and he has work in Hanoi. He just rented a van and drove 48 hours from the southern part of Vietnam to Hanoi. It's tough, but I'm hoping, like we've been talking for the last year and a half, that the light at the end of the tunnel and everything gets going. Vietnam has been very slow with the vaccination. As of I just read the news today, was as little as 13% of the people only are inoculated. I mean, that's one of the lowest in Asia. So they're pretty slow at it right now. So they have a long way to go, and they're very strict about it. Vietnam is extremely strict about it. If there's a little outbreak, I mean, they lock it down, in a heartbeat. I've been in 9 months. I've been in at least 6 or 7 lockdowns. I think the other day I was trying to count. I think I've had like 16 or 17 COVID tests in that time. I mean, it's you can go. I used to drive from Bình Tiên to my project in Phan Thiet, and sometimes I go through 2 roadblocks there. You'd have to do a rapid COVID test just driving 3.5 hours, from one place to the other. So it changes every day. You don't know, So, but to answer your question, Spencer, I'm very optimistic about the golf future in Vietnam. I know David's chasing some new stuff. I got all kinds of new stuff happening here. I think it's still a very hot market. We just, hopefully this pandemic thing fizzles away, and I think it'll return immediately to the hottest market in Southeast Asia for sure.
David, your thoughts about Vietnam?
Well, the first time I went to Vietnam was 2003, and our long-term project outside of Ho Chi Minh was under construction. And then we ended up having, since then, 3 other projects that got developed. And those other 3 were all Korean development companies that did that work. So we were getting work from South Korea to go into Vietnam to provide these designs based upon our reputation there. But in that period of time from 2003 through, I would say, about 2016, we worked on 54 projects, and 48 of them went dead. And we've always been bullish on Vietnam. There's lots of reasons why they just would not materialize. Had permits, government took permits away, start all over again. We lost over a dozen projects that we thought were going forward. We were getting paid for construction documents. But over the last 4 years now, I mean, gee whiz, we've sent out so many darn proposals, it's ridiculous. I can't keep track of how many, and active conversations as well. I mean, we've got more than a dozen conversations going on right now with developers, second projects, or several of them also first-time projects. And we're hopeful, but the only way to really, for us to close any kind of deal is to be present, be there, press the flesh. And that's why I really contemplated the idea of sticking around when I was there. And because I didn't think it would be very easy to get back in. And then Martin's describing what he's been going through to, just exist and conduct business on a daily basis there. And it's gotten to be extremely difficult with all the various shutdowns of unpredictable times. But we're very optimistic. I mean, we've got 4 courses that we know are going to go. They are communicating in a very positive way. The permits are all in place. And it's a matter of finishing up some documents to be able to go to bid. So I had a nice WhatsApp message for an introduction I got just a couple of days ago, and they'd like to entertain us for something that would be next year. But they want to meet. They don't want to Zoom. They don't want to team view on Microsoft or Google that we're using right here. They want to meet. They want to get to know each other, and I totally appreciate that, because I think personality is very important for any type of project. If we walk away, we want friendship when we're done. That's always our goal. It's not like come in, hit it, get it done, get the fee, get out, get on to the next one. It's longevity. We want to be involved from start to however long you get to walk this earth to be able to do things. We've got good relationships with a lot of clientele. They'll never do another project, but we assist them with all kinds of different things that are happening. Hey, we're thinking about moving a bunker. What do you think? That's an important question that we get. We like those questions. Yeah, okay, let's talk about it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Is it slowing down play? Yeah, it's slowing down. Well, let's move it out a little bit further because it went in the ground 15 years ago. I want that kind of relationship in Vietnam, and I think there's longevity in Vietnam to be able to do that. I really do. And I have to say, too, I think the quality of the golf courses being built today in Vietnam far surpasses anything that has been getting built prior to 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago in Thailand. Okay. I think the quality of the sites are better. I think the quality of the construction materials being used is better. I think the expertise and the know-how that has developed over 3 decades has provided better product, better golf in Vietnam, I feel. It's a matter of educating people out there to understand what, if they're not coming out, what they're missing with regard to great golf and new markets. Because we can talk about Europe, we can talk about courses in Canada, or a few handful in Mexico or the Caribbean, or, oh boy, the good old US of A, all the great golf courses we have, and really pump them up. But I tell you what, there's a lot of fantastic golf in Asia that nobody knows about. How do we get the golfers traveling there to experience the golf in Asia? Because there's really superior stuff there. Nobody knows. They just don't.
That's a fabulous note on which to finish. David Dale, Martin Moore, thank you for your incredible insights and sharing your experiences, and look forward to seeing all your work come to fruition, not just at Bintian Golf Resort, but around the region in the years ahead. Many thanks to you both.
Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer. Thanks very much.